What's going on, guys? Welcome back to WWE Network and Chill, where I, Graham Jason Matthews, break down all the original content you watch on the WWE Network and on Peacock. And today we're talking the May 31st, 2021 edition of Raw Talk. Today actually marks 1 year, the 1 year anniversary of when Raw Talk was brought back as a weekly series on the network / Peacock, immediately following Monday Night Raw, which is pretty cool. I didn't know it's been a year until I looked at the calendar this morning and I looked at my notes, and the first episode I had notes for was June 1st, and I've been covering the show this entire time. It doesn't feel like it's been a year. It feels like it was just yesterday the show was brought back, and I've been talking about it ever since. But congrats to Raw Talk on the 1 year anniversary. Obviously, they didn't bring that up here, but I thought this was a solid show on the whole. As always, being hosted by Kevin Patrick and R-Truth, who brings up how Patrick cost him the 24/7 championship 2 weeks ago on Raw. He has not let that go yet. They seemed to kind of bury the hatchet last week, did Truth and Patrick. Truth was kind of bothered by Patrick here, bringing up how Patrick's people back in Ireland, his friends and family, were bothered by Truth, or at least attempting an Irish accent last week on the show. And Truth said, well, I can kind of do whatever I want because, you cost me my 24/7 championship, a title that means absolutely nothing, by the way. And Patrick was like, oh, okay. And then they had Truth do an English accent, which he thought was an Irish accent, which he thinks it's all the same thing. So R-Truth creating an international incident here on Raw Talk. So if Raw Talk suddenly sees a decline in viewers from England and Ireland, we know why. But that was the start of the show. And then they recapped the main event that saw Drew McIntyre beat Kofi Kingston to once again become the number one contender to the WWE Championship, facing Bobby Lashley for the title at Hell in a Cell later this month. Truth says the respect is still there between McIntyre and Kofi, which was evident when McIntyre shook Kofi's hand afterward. And then Truth calls the whole Nia Jax, Reginald, Shayna Baszler bullshit an entanglement, which Charlie Caruso would get a kick out of because she was all involved with the whole Angel Garza thing and how she called that an entanglement last year, whatever. So yeah, because they were recapping the Shayna Baszler-Reginald match, which was a complete waste of time. I was hoping and thought, as you could probably tell from my interview with Shayna that dropped yesterday before Raw, cheap plug, check it out, I was hoping for it to be complete destruction. Unfortunately, we didn't get that. But they recap that whole bullshit and Shayna confronting Alexa on Alexa's playground. Who cares at this point? I mean, I love Shayna. I think Shayna's amazing, but they are just wasting her away in this dumb role that is only really meant to elevate Alexa Bliss. What would Alexa Bliss beating Shayna even mean at this point if Shayna can't even beat fucking Reginald? Who could possibly care? They also recap Charlotte Flair versus Nikki Cross in the 2-minute beat the clock challenge. Total waste of time. Patrick says that Nikki Cross is on fire right now. Even though she technically beat Charlotte and Rhea, she only really survived for 2 minutes. And they weren't even really matches. She wasn't even attempting to win. She didn't pin either of them. She didn't even get them counted out or disqualified or submit them or whatever. She just survived for 2 fucking minutes. I mean, hell, if I was in there, I'm sure they couldn't beat me in 2 minutes. I mean, it's really not all that impressive. 5 minutes, 8 minutes, maybe. 2 minutes is, we've seen 2-minute matches before, but not with someone the caliber of Nikki Cross, for the most part. So it's really not that accurate of a statement from Patrick that said that Nikki Cross is on fire right now, because who could possibly care about her surviving 2-minute matches against Rhea Ripley and Charlotte Flair? Anyway, so the first people we have here on the show are the Raw Tag Team Champions AJ Styles and Omos, who are feeling fantastic following their successful title defense on Raw, where they beat Elias and Jackson Ryker. AJ called Truth a daywalker, which Truth was offended by, not knowing what it meant. I didn't know what it meant either. And AJ says that the term daywalker means someone that has not aged at all, which is accurate if that's true. And R-Truth, if you look at pictures, watch videos of him from 10, 15, even 20 years ago, he looks exactly the same as he did when he first came into the company in the early 2000s. R-Truth just has not aged a day. The guy doesn't age. And then he calls AJ Allen, which AJ gets really bothered by, and Omos kind of threatens Truth to not do that, to call him by his first name. His name is AJ Styles, not Allen, which I thought was great. AJ says that Omos touches everything he destroys, and he's enjoyed working with him. Omos equally praises AJ and says that he's one of the best to ever do it. And he doesn't really think the New Day is a team anymore. They were in separate singles matches on this show, on Monday's Raw. They both lost. Not really much of a team or a threat. And they've already beaten the New Day twice, so it's not really a feud I want to see again anyway. They kind of laugh off The Viking Raiders is competition, Mason T-Bar is competition, and they won on Monday's Raw. They like the competition, and they entertain the possibilities, like I said, of the Viking Raiders potentially stepping up, and RK Bro, Randy Orton, and Riddle. So Raw's tag team division is growing. It was nice to see Mason T-Bar get some time, even though they're not the greatest team. I hate the fucking makeup and the promos and shit, but they're not a bad team in the ring. This was the most I think I've ever heard from Omos. And he was hilarious here. Him and AJ have great chemistry. I'm glad we're starting to hear more from him, and he's not just like the silent heavy for AJ. He has a personality, and he's really fucking funny. I thought he and AJ were amazing. So we got to hear more from Omos on Raw, and not just on Raw Talk, which I know is the whole point of Raw Talk, was to hear people talk. But hopefully we can hear him not cut a promo on Raw. I'm not saying he's the greatest promo guy in the world, but in terms of being a talker and having a personality and being likable, or whatever you want him to be, he has that. So hopefully we get to hear from him more on Raw. Wrestling might not be his strong suit, but he can be a great heavy for a guy like AJ and still get a chance to talk every once in a while. So Omos also brought up how he doesn't like R-Truth, and that was the last thing he got in there before they ended that segment. Nikki Cross was on next, and she said that she enjoys proving Charlotte Flair wrong, and it felt so good. How the fuck did she beat her? Did she prove her wrong? She didn't beat her. She merely, again, lasted 2 minutes in the ring with Charlotte that literally almost anyone can do. And now I'm not saying that's an indictment on Charlotte. That's not a bad thing for Charlotte. But really, anyone can last 2 minutes in the ring with anyone unless they're fucking Braun Strowman or some sort of monster. Omos might be a struggle in terms of, like, like he might kill you in 2 minutes, or a Strowman or whoever else. But Charlotte or a Rhea or an R-Truth or even a Sheamus, honestly, would he beat me in 2 minutes? Maybe. I don't know. It's really not all that impressive, like I said earlier. So the fact that she is reveling in this enjoyment of beating, quote-unquote, Rhea and Charlotte, it makes her look like a loser because she didn't do anything. She ran around the ring for 2 minutes. Anyone can fucking do that. Who cares? And Patrick even brings up, Kevin Patrick even questions, could she have beaten you, though, in 5 or 6 minutes? And Nikki kind of, doesn't really say anything to that. She kind of just, she's like, whatever, at least I won, blah, blah, blah. I don't know. I thought Nikki Cross right now is just, I'm glad she's back on the show and they're using her, but they're just having her come across like a complete loser. How is she benefiting at all from this, from these wins and these mini matches and lasting 2 minutes? Who cares? 2 minutes is nothing. And she says beating them, quote unquote, makes her the ultra best, which is why she will be watching the Hell in the Cell match, or not inside Hell in the Cell, but at Hell in the Cell, between Charlotte and Rhea very closely, and she vows to be the Raw Women's Champion someday. And she very well might be the Raw Women's Champion someday, but if they continue to book her like a fucking loser, like a goof who enjoys beating people, quote unquote again, outlasting them in 2 minute matches, then I really don't want to see her as the Raw Women's Champion, because I don't think that's going to happen as long as she's being booked like that. If she's even if she beats Charlotte or Rhea via distraction, a win is a win. This was not a fucking victory. I don't know what it was, but it wasn't a win. Drew McIntyre was the last person they had on here. He was on there very quickly before they went off the air, a lot sooner than usual. But he showed off his shiner that he got at the hands, or feet rather, of Kofi in their match on Raw, on Monday's Raw. He says that Kofi has evolved as much as he has, but he's gunning for that WWE Championship, and he's going to make this last opportunity at the title count come Hell in the Cell. It was very short, very sweet, straight to the point, exactly what I would love to hear. Just because we've heard from Drew so much here on Raw Talk and on Raw in general about, I'm going for the championship, blah, 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 and then he just loses, as he should. And I love McIntyre a lot. I think he's great, but you can't have him keep cutting the same promo after promo after promo if he's not going to win. So I think just keeping the short and sweet, addressing Lashley, he's got the match set. That's really all there is to say at this point. I thought that was the best course of action. So a solid show. Nikki Cross, it was just annoying here. But that Drew was exactly what it needed to be. Nothing new, but short, sweet, straight to the point. And then AJ Omos made this episode worth watching, at least for their segment alone. They were hilarious, and I really enjoyed their chemistry with Kevin Patrick and R-Truth. But those are my thoughts on the May 31st, 2021 edition of Raw Talk. Thank you guys for checking out the episode. This episode of WWE Network and Chill. I appreciate it. Be sure to like the video, drop a comment, share the video, and subscribe to the channel for more daily content. And be sure to check out more Raw Talk reviews in the description box down below. Stay tuned for an all-new #AskGSM episode coming tomorrow, on my birthday, actually, which is interesting timing. So I'm not sure when it's going to be up. It might be up a lot later, might be up on the earlier side. I don't quite know yet, but It will be up at some point, so stay tuned for that. Have a great one, guys. Enjoy the rest of your week. I'm Graham G.S. Matthews, and I'll catch your ass down the road.